Good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokuu. Artisanal small-scale mining contributes largely to the economies of many countries across the world, particularly in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. In Ghana, for instance, one-third of the country's gold comes from the artisanal small-scale mining sector, which means that the sector has the potential to contribute to economic development and support rural livelihoods. But the sector also contributes largely to environmental problems. There's now an emerging consensus that formalization will help to address the associated problems associated with the artisanal small-scale mining sector. But what is formalization? What do we mean by formalization? And how can that contribute to sustainable development? Now, with me to answer this question is Dr. Francis Ata-Holmes. Doc, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for hosting me today to talk more about artisanal mining and in terms of its sustainability and how the role it will play in terms of contributing to green transition across the globe. So I'm happy and excited and thrilled to have to present today.
Yeah. So if you are new to the channel, kindly subscribe and hit the subscribe button on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you insightful conversations. We are live on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube. You can also follow us on TikTok as well as on LinkedIn. This will motivate us a lot. We support your feedback. So comment on our videos, watch our videos, share them with your friends and your colleagues so that it will motivate us to continue to bring you such insightful conversations. Doc, for viewers unfamiliar with the artisanal small-scale mining sector, I mean, you and I have done a lot of work in this space. You've done quite a lot. You are one of the leading voices on artisanal small-scale mining across the world. So what exactly is artisanal small-scale mining, and why is it so important to countries in the global south, particularly countries like Ghana?
Okay, so to begin with, artisanal and small scale mining are two words that we brought together. For us to understand, we'll try to know what artisanal means, and when you say small scale, what does it mean? So when you're looking at dictionary definition of artisanal, sometimes they relate you to characteristics or attribute of a skilled craftsmanship who uses traditional method to produce something, right? So when we say artisanal, it means the traditional way of doing things, and usually they use basic methods in crafting something. And we're talking about if something is a small scale, means that it's operated not on a large scale, but small on a small scale. So when we combine the two, we refer to as a low to small scale mineral extraction and processing activities that are often labor intensive and carried out with limited capital, varying degrees of mechanization, and a mix of formal and informal arrangement across. So now we could see that the low tech one can be attributed to using small methods like pickaxe, chisels, uh, chisel and hammer. Then we can use, at first we're using metal mortar and metal pistol. So now it has developed to another scale where now we use mills, crushers in order to grind the minerals materials into finer particles for further processing. So where they use the small material, small tools or metal, we can classify as artisanal, right? So in more of underground mining, the ghetto one can be classified as artisanal mining because usually they use pickaxe, chisel and hammer, shovels, and but if we go to a level or operation where they use excavators, washing plant, crushers, bulldozers, we cannot classify it as artisanal mining. Rather, it falls under um, small scale mining. And for that kind of activities, it can be semi mechanized or not mechanized, right? So into more detailed, in Ghana, in our for our framework, legal framework, artisanal mining is also captured under the broader small scale mining operation in Ghana. And so it's good for us to understand, because people only hear small scale mining in Ghana without hearing that artisanal as part of it.
Yeah.
Then, if we're looking at its contribution to the global south, in countries like Ghana, ASM is a critical important because it provides livelihood to millions of people in the rural areas, and even its connections with the district capital and urban areas. Um, Previously, in 2006, some scholars estimated those who are involved in ASM around 1 million, right? Especially for the direct involvement, and the indirect involvement around maybe 2.5 or 4.5. But based on the research that I conducted with my colleagues, we realized that because of the graduate youth and the graduate employment, right, or the graduate unemployment issue, many youth or graduates are involved in small scale mining. So in Ghana, it provides employment for about 2.5 million people in the country, which is a large number. So if we're looking at a sector like this, and we don't develop or design appropriate policies to help graduate unemployment, those who are living in poverty, then it becomes a difficult for we are going to compound the poverty situation, economic hardship within the country and the rural areas. So that's something. And another important thing that we have to recognize is that to many uh, rural farmers, ASM is lucrative because of the opportunities that is associated with. Knowing that agriculture has become less unattractive, not reliable and profitable. So it has also propelled another group of people involving in small scale mining in rural areas. And we have to know that the ASM has evolved over a period of time, right? So now it's not just hand to mouth operations. Now it's providing opportunities for people, and it's in Ghana, as we say, it is made up of complex group of people, right? We
Yeah.
have the financiers, we have the machine owners, we have the traders, we have the local authorities, and even the politicians or the rich people are also involved in it. So it is one of the largest source of rural unemployment and also for economic growth in the global south, and Ghana is not an exception.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking us through, the artisanal small scale mining, the definition and the concept of artisanal small scale mining. Before we go further, I would like you to introduce yourself to our viewers. I should have done that earlier, but it's not late. Introduce yourself. Where are you? What do you do? I know I already mentioned that you've done a lot of work on the artisanal small scale mining sector. You've done a lot of research on that, but introduce yourself to our audience before we continue with the conversation.
Okay, so I said I'm Dr. Francis Ata-Holmes, and I'm a senior research fellow in sustainability at Agile Center for Equitable Sustainability at Faculty of Business and Law at University of Portsmouth, UK, and I have a PhD in sociology and social policy, and I hold a master's degree from University of Oxford and in development studies, and another master's from Harvard University in Master of Public Health in Occupational Environmental Health. And whilst I was doing my PhD, I also got opportunity to be a visiting scholar at University of Cambridge. And looking at my background, and from my undergrad, I did my first degree in geography and rural development with economics as a minor. So if you check, I always see myself as an interdisciplinary researcher with a
Yes.
vast experience
Yes.
crossing different disciplines.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it gives me an avenue to discuss so many issues relating to
Yes.
development, public health, environment, and even sociology and social policy, why social policies fail, and why sociology plays a crucial role in some of the policies that we make in the global south. And as you know, I have conducted small scale mining before I turned age 15. So I have experience of small scale mining. Yeah. And
Yes.
my experience when I started, I worked with a woman. So with a
Yeah.
woman, and at that time there was stereotype concerning me, and they said that how can a man undertake a woman's activity? You have to go through because they said I was not strong enough. So that's why I understand the complex dynamics of women's involvement in small scale mining. And afterwards, whilst I was in secondary school, I also continued to engage in small scale mining as well. And after senior school, I engaged in the underground mining and understand the complex issue about environmental and health risks associated with small scale mining. And if you're looking at that, I've published over 75 papers covering small scale mining, public health, and environmental health issues. And that's a
Yeah.
brief one I can give. And now,
Yes.
because of my experience, I've established a foundation called Prisbon Save, and that's one to give made up of an academics who are passionate about the sector and want to give a voice and address the informal nature of small scale mining issues and address the mercury use and also how to promote responsible mining in Ghana and across Africa as well. So we started and we need support from other non government organizations to support us to channel these visions to promote that sustainable small scale mining activities. And we understand that small scale we cannot eradicate or get rid of small scale mining activities in Ghana and across, and that's something that we have to know. And then the news media will make it seems like something that we have to address and have to use military measures. So as we discuss that, I hope such questions will come up and we address it. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Yes, definitely. I'll ask questions on the use of military force or the use of security in Ghana, known as Operation Vanguard, to fight illegal small-scale mining. Like you said at the beginning, small-scale mining is largely a poverty-driven activity. It contributes to economic and rural livelihoods across many countries in the global south, including Ghana. Ghana is no exception. So we'll get into the nitty gritties of all of that. I mean, you have lived experience, and you have a lot of experience. You have both academic and practical experience when it comes to artisanal small scale mining. But you know, let's look at this. If you are watching us, this is the Green Transition Show. We are live on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube. You can follow us on TikTok as well as on LinkedIn. If you are new to the channel, kindly subscribe to the channel on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you such insightful conversations. My guest is Dr. Francis Ata-Holmes. He's a senior research fellow at the University of Portsmouth in the UK. Doc, many argue that, I mean, you've talked about the complex nature of the sector. Many argue that artisanal small scale mining is far more diverse and complex than many policymakers assume. What are people getting wrong about the sector?
Okay, that's a nice question. I think you've asked a nice question to keep the conversation interesting. So one of the biggest misconception is that ASM is homogeneous sector, and that's wrong. Policymakers and the general public often treat all small-scale mining operations as the same, despite major differences between alluvia, underground, that's ghetto mining, and surface stroke open pit operations. These mining activities carry different environmental risk and safety conditions, economic returns, and labor structures. If you are looking at another misconception or misunderstanding, is the assumption that all informal mining is inherently criminal. They operate as criminals, they are bandits, they are some of them are seen as environmental destroyers. But in reality, many operators remain informal because the legal system is inaccessible, expensive, and or poorly designed for the realities of rural miners. So these are some of the misconceptions people have that the sector is single, uniform. They use one mining method, which is different. So that's something I can say about it.
Okay, so how does the current licensing regime or framework intentionally or unintentionally encourage informality, what we call Galamsey operations?
Mm. So if you look at the what we have, the license system, we have one size fits all license system. It intentionally pushes many miners into informality because it fails to recognize the diversity or heterogeneity of ASM operations. In Ghana and other countries, ASM operations are heterogeneous, right? Set of mining practices that cannot effectively governed by one licensing or one small scale license. So we need different ones, right? So the current state-led formalization centered on one license type hinders rather than enables appropriate regulation, support or inclusion of different group of people who want to engage in different or engage in small scale mining operations with a different type of mining method. So if you are looking, it does not align with the diverse ASM practices, and inherently it cannot be seen to what to address informal or the in Ghana we call it the illegal small scale mining. But there's something I have to clarify that when we talk about Galamsey in Ghana, it does not mean illegal mining. We have decided to associate Galamsey with illegal or informal mining. In the literal meaning of Galamsey during the colonial period and pre-colonial period, when we talk about Galamsey, literally means gather them and sell, right? So Gold Coast. It means that first it was easy to find gold on the land, and then you can gather them, and sometimes they keep it as a treasure for our families, right? And in when I was young in Pistia, when it rains, we believe that the rainfall will wash away the topsoil, and we can find some kind of nugget, and we sell them. So it connotes to Galamsey and the dynamics of gold operation during the colonial period when it was called Ghana was called Gold Coast. So now we understand Galamsey as well. So if I go further for us to know why the current licensing scheme does not support, imagine a miner working in underground shaft faces a very different technical and financial realities from another miner engaged in shallow alluvial mining. But yet, these two group of miners are expected to navigate the same regulatory framework. To you, is it right? It's not, because you have different operations, different income, impact, and everything. So it's not right, right? So that's why this creates barriers to compliance, especially for poorer operators, and also encourage many workers to work outside the legal systems that is commonly known as what Galamsey, as I said, by how Ghanaians have termed. So that's how I would say.
Mm. So artisanal small scale mining is often blamed for environmental destruction. In your view, how accurate is this?
So, in some way, there's a bit of truth, some truth, but not all. But it is often, as you said, we try to oversimplify it and make it very selective, right? But ASM can indeed contribute to land degradation, as you know, deforestation and water pollution, particularly where regulation and legal and technical systems are weak, right? They contribute to that. So in areas where these miners do not have licenses, they've not obtained licenses, they don't know the mining code and regulations, they will conduct their activities recklessly, right? And in that will contribute to environmental degradation. So, but one thing you have to know is that although ASM can cause severe local impact, when we relate you to like mercury use having impact on water pollution like turbidity, riparian damage, deforestation, and pit abandonment, we have to know that it also coexists with other factors that contribute to environmental degradations in Ghana and other global south as well. When looking at agriculture expansion, we're looking at logging as well, and also looking at sand winning. These are some of the examples that it carries. But the fact that the most important thing we have to know is that environmental damage varies significantly depending on the mining method used, right? For instance, if poorly managed alluvial mining near a river is damaging, then it means that these people have not paid particular attention to environmental. You know, in Ghana, we have that riparian effect that maybe 100 or 500 meters away from rivers, you should not water mine. So, in such activity, will contribute to water pollution, right? But if you're looking at a small underground hard rock mining, it can have lower surface environmental footprint, right? If the pits are managed and the tailings are hot contained. So, these are some of the significance you have to know. And we need to know that large scale mining operations um, can also have environmental impacts, right? But yet the public discuss frequently focus on um, artisanal and small scale mining operations, right? So that's why in some of my works I call for more nuanced com- complex specific environmental governance rather than straight condemnation of small scale mining activities as we always see it in the newspapers and other media sources.
Doc, but I guess the concentrations on the artisanal small scale mining and not the large scale mining because of this. Yes, I agree with you. Mining activities anywhere, whether it's artisanal small scale mining or large scale mining, contribute to environmental degradation. There's no doubt about that. But the difference many often argue is that with a large scale mining, they have a concession and they
Mhm.
don't mine beyond the concession. So if you give them, let's say, 1 kilometer of land, you know, to mine as their concession. So they mine within the confines of the concession. So they don't go beyond the concession. So their environmental destruction is controlled. It's within that concession and not beyond the concession. But with the artisanal small scale mining, I mean, do not many of them do not have concessions. They mine everywhere, right? Once they believe that there's gold or there's a mineral in a particular location, they go there to mine. So
Yeah,
they don't have, of course, some have concessions, but not all.
yeah.
So that is the problem. I think that's the difference, and that's the argument of many people. That because artisanal small scale, most of them, not all, most of them do not have concessions. They mine everywhere. They mine close to river bodies. They mine, wherever they believe there is gold or minerals. So, and that's the difference. What do you say to that?
Yeah, so adding to that, when we're looking at the large scale, that is the misconception of large scale. Large scale, they don't pollute the environment, they do everything. But
No, not that they don't pollute the environment. Their
yeah,
pollution, their destruction is restricted to their concession, right?
but in terms of that
Even though
restriction,
pollution, it doesn't really matter.
you know, we
Yeah,
have the tailings dam collapse, structural issues.
yes,
The tailings dam, how they manage their facility. Sometimes when it collapses, the structural design don't pay particular attention. It have massive impact on the environment as well. So that's
yes.
another issue that in the Latin America we saw some of them in Peru, Chile, and uh,
But don't you
Brazil.
think, not to cut you, don't you think they are very rare compared to what is happening within the artisanal small scale? I am an advocate of artisanal small scale mining, but
Oh
we
yes,
have to look at the issues from a critical standpoint. So I'm
oh
just, yeah, trying
yes.
to
It
let
was
our viewers understand the issues, right?
yes. So that
Mm.
I wanted the viewers to know that large scale mining can also have some severe impact on the environment if they
Yeah.
do not comply with the regulations, right? And they go beyond that, they can also have some impact. You realize how we saw the diamond issue came into this mining at the Nzima, Adamus
Adam,
issue
okay.
came in where some kind of the operation have some illegal operations with informal small scale miners where our regulators found it that they were not complying with that, but they are conniving with these people to engage in illegal activities, right? In
Yeah.
allow them also to work on their concessions, right? They can also uh, engage in some kind of mining practices that will destroy the environment if the large scale miners had maybe engaged on their concession for their own maybe oil extraction, right? So
Yeah.
these are some of the differences. And adding to the emphasis that we place emphasis on this ASM because in Ghana, about 85% of ASM operators do not have licenses, they operate
Yes.
illegally.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at that scale, 85%, and we attribute like about 2.5 million people are engaged per hour, we said that we did. Then if you're looking at 2.5, just have that kind of statistics. And they are not operating within the legal
Yeah.
framework.
Regime.
It means that their environmental impact will be severe, will be large, right?
Yeah.
It will not be compared to this. So that's why small ASM is becoming a conundrum for us what to do in Africa, and we have to find different reform the regulatory framework to cope with the diverse ASM operations. So I understand. So these are some of the things that we have to know that the scale of informal activities is very large and is contributing to this environmental degradation, and that has become a problem in Ghana and other African countries compared to the large scale mining operators.
Now, to deal with the associated problems within the artisanal small-scale mining sector, the military is often used to crack down on their activities. Do you think military crackdowns can help solve the artisanal small-scale mining conundrum?
Also, if you're looking at the military one, you have done a work on that, and
Yeah.
you know that you know that this military form, if you're looking at more of development sociology and those one, it's a state-led form of what violence or cohesion and
Yeah.
enforcement. And you know that when per research and example across the globe, where military force is used, there's that kind of resistance
Yeah.
from the people who engage in it. And we say that ASM is basically poverty driven activity. So most of the people are poor. And they will look at it that this military force is destroying their economic livelihood. So what should they do? They have to resist in order to engage in activity to provide for their family or for themselves. So the military crackdown cannot be helpful to address that, right? So we should rather looking at a better way of addressing small scale mining issues. So for me, I don't think is the solution to address that, but rather it generates a different forms of coping strategy where violence was being used between the state and the local people.
This is the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokuu. Our guest is Dr. Francis Ata-Holmes. We are discussing artisanal small-scale mining, its sustainability, formalization, and its future in Africa. If you are new to the channel, kindly subscribe. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you such insightful conversations. You can also follow us on Facebook as well as on TikTok and LinkedIn. Doc, why has land reclamation remained a major challenge within the artisanal small scale mining sector? Is it because most of them are operating illegally? What has been the challenge?
So as I described earlier on concerning why the one size fits all is not helping, when we look at that debate in that argument in line with land reclamation, we could see that land reclamation remain difficult because current policies do not account for the distinctive economic and environmental impact of different mining methods. As I said, alluvial mining will give you different environmental methods. Underground mining, ghetto one will give you different environmental one. Open pit will give different one, right? So reclamation strategy suitable for open pit mining may not be applicable to alluvial or underground mining operations. So what we have to know is that different land reclamation strategy require different financial capacity, right? So these miners lack financial resources, technical knowledge, and also do not have secure land tenure needed to invest in rehabilitation. Right? So it become an issue. So weak institutional coordination and inconsistent enforcement also undermine reclamation efforts.
Mm. You mentioned at the beginning that climate change is also pushing people from agriculture into mining activities, particularly artisanal small-scale mining activities. Can you throw more light on that?
So if we looking at agriculture pushing if you're looking at how climate change, climate change now, everywhere you go, we are writing about climate change, we are linking to community resilience, how we cope with. So if you're looking at the broader discussion, you could see that there is Western agriculture uncertainty because of climate change. And this is pushing many rural people towards non farm activities. And if you're looking at rural areas, the lucrative economic activity is mining, right? So
Yeah.
for them to cope with this kind of economic shock, and this climate impact, um, uh, farming becomes, mining becomes relevant economic what activity. So if we break down the climate change, how does climate change impact happen and influence rural people into agriculture? So we conducted a research using Guinea, for example, conducted a research in Guinea where we found that erratic rainfall and declining farm productivity and economic vulnerability has made ASM operation more lucrative survival strategy for those the Guineans, those people in the rural areas. And as a matter of fact, it helps them to take care of their family. And another example where uh, people engage in many farmers engage in mining is because of the seasonality of agriculture, right? So during the dry season, they engage in small scale mining activities. Then during the rainy season, they engage in those, and so it becomes a complementary activity, right? And some farmers also see it as a means to get income from the farming, from the mining activities in order to purchase fertilizers for their crops. So these are some of the reasons why climate change has had impact on agricultural activities and fueling ASM participation in the global south.
Yes, like you said, I mean, you stated earlier that you are an interdisciplinary social scientist. Just like me, I consider myself as an interdisciplinary environmental social scientist. So we tend to look at issues from different lens, different perspectives. You have looked at your work has in your work you've highlighted artisanal small scale mining in different areas. You have looked at different areas. You've looked at agriculture. You've just briefly talked about how climate change is influencing people to go into artisanal small scale mining activities. You have also looked at women empowerment issues. Now, my question is, uh, why are women often marginalized within the artisanal small scale mining sector?
Oh yeah, so now that's the initial area where I started my research on women because of my
Okay.
experience, and
Yeah.
I've developed a lot of key terms: gender sympathy, gender entanglement, fueling, having impact on women's participation in small scale miners. So we are looking at the first thing that we have to look at. People see ASM as a masculine activity.
Yeah.
So for the perception, it means that it sideline women to the background. So women cannot be seen as equal partners in the ASM sector, right? So they are marginalized because the ASM are being shaped by gender divisions of labor, unequal access to resources like land, finance, machinery, and licenses. In Ghana, for example, if you're looking at the northern region, customary land access and inheritance norms limit claim holding. So if you're in the north, you cannot have any inheritance. You cannot have access to customary lands, and with that, it limits you to play a crucial role in the supply chain of ASM operations. And if you see that women frequently work in the low paid support roles like carrying load, like sweeping the mining site, like carrying water for processing for washing, and also you look at transportation activities. So women are not being control the mining claims and equipment. And as I said earlier on, this can be explained by the term I develop as gendered sympathy, or the entangled forces influences women's livelihood and impact in the sector. So, for example, using PCR for example, the research I did earlier in 2014, 2017 showed that uh, some women get access to mining sites because of men's sympathetic or consideration towards women, because they knew their economic conditions and the hardship they are going through. So, per the discussions and the family affiliation, they in, they permit them to work at the large scale mining hot sites, and some aspect like dig and wash alluvial aspect because of the dynamics that they have. So the current framework, if you look at it more broadly, we can say that it limits to improve women's economic visibility and also bargaining power within the other sector.
Okay. I think this question is very important. If I don't ask it, my viewers would be happy with me. How significant is the role of political influence and corruption in sustaining illegal mining?
That one is
Yeah, there's definitely politics. I mean, we started this conversation by saying that artisanal small scale mining is largely a poverty driven activity. Um,
but it is changing. It's
but
changing
it's
over time.
changing. It's
Yes.
changing. It's changing. Um, it's changing, and there's definitely politics involved in it. There's
Yeah.
corruption involved in it.
Yeah.
So how significant is this?
Also, they're very significant. So the political influence corruptions are often portrayed as a major factor sustaining illegal mining now in Ghana. So we can take it from different perspectives. Licensing, enforcement, access to mining land are shaped by the political patronage and unequal power relations. In some cases, politically connected actors benefit from the weak enforcement in Ghana now and the selective regulations. So this undermines the trust in the governance system and making reform more difficult. When we're looking at it from another perspective, if I look at my research that I have done, some illegal mining operators reportedly receive protection from politically connected individuals. So this makes it difficult to ensure enforcement and compliance. So this creates a situation where certain actors can continue operating despite official bans. There are official bans of military operations, but because of their political influence, you could see that some people are still operating or continue their illegal mining activities. And poor miners and local operators may be targeted. They may be the target, but rather behind the scene, these political or wealthier actors are involved and they usually avoid sanctions. So if you're looking at its impact, it undermines public trust in the legitimacy of state intervention. How will people trust our interventions when these politicians who are supposed to make policies to promote sustainable and responsible mining, they are rather behind it? It becomes an issue. So if you are looking at that kind of political influence and the corruption, then those from the political settlement, the political settlement scholars can also bring it different views about the elite capture, elite
Yeah.
capture of mineral resources and all the political ecology of mining. Also talking about everything is interconnected. The political aspect also play a crucial role, and the benefits from this mining are not evenly distributed, right? And without individuals with financial and political influence are better off in obtaining the benefit and secure concessions, machinery protections, while in your research as you did, we try to classify the informers as vulnerable, criminals, theft, and all those kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
negative connotation concern them, but they are behind it with different hot forms. So I think they have that kind of relationship, and as we said it earlier, it's made up of compressed web of what actors. And now in Ghana's, even the president recognize that some political parties and those people, politicians are also involved in a way, and we could see the case of Wuntumi and others being dragged to court and everything, that they have to find a way to address this. So clearly, as you said, yeah, there's that kind of
Yeah.
explanation connection there, and we need more scholars to study that and find
Yeah.
a way how this manifests.
Yeah. In all of this, what is the role of our traditional authorities and local communities
Mm,
in our mining governance?
yes.
What is their role?
Yeah, very significant. I'll say very significant. We have neglected them. Before I answer the question, one of my research that I did, rethinking formalization. One chief said that they, as a traditional leaders, are not involved in the policy making, the consultation stage, and everything. And for that matter, they are not being paid monthly. So how will they survive as traditional leaders? They have to depend on the lands and also engage in the economic activities. And if you're looking at the rural areas, mining is lucrative.
Yeah.
You see, with that perception, I get rich mentality and everything you may compare to farming. So they involve it. So there should be a different views concern how we see our traditional authorities and communities. One, to answer that, they should play a much larger role in community mining governance, because they possess the local knowledge about the land use. They have environmental practice and community dynamics. They know where the mining, the informal small scale mining activities are being undertaken. They know the people who are involved in it, and even some of them get proceeds from them, right? Based on the arrangement that they make with with the miners. So if we're looking at them, we should not exclude them from the governance process, because if we do that, it weakens legitimacy and enforcement. So they have a role in community participation, will help to address conflict issues and improve environmental monitoring, and also in terms of local accountability of how chiefs participation in ASM can address these environmental issues that we are facing in the global south, and Ghana is also an example in that case.
Yeah, if you are watching us, this is the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokuu. My guest is Dr. Francis Ata-Holmes. He is a senior research fellow in sustainability, the University of Portsmouth. If you are new to the channel, kindly hit the subscribe button on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you such insightful conversations. You can also follow us on Facebook. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. You can follow us on TikTok as well as on LinkedIn. Doc, let's move our conversation to formalization.
Yeah.
So when we talk about formalization, what do we mean by formalization?
Yeah. So if let's break formalization simple, bringing this informal activities to formal domain. If you're looking at the word,
Yeah,
I want to simplify for people. Once you formalization means that whatever activities that you are doing, which is illegal, informal, we should bring it to the formal sector, so that government can regulate those activities and help, right? And help
yes.
them in order to protect the environment from degradation and everything. Also, can get technical support.
And how
So,
can that be done? Yes.
and that's where legal framework comes in,
Okay.
and legal and policy framework comes in order to do that. And with that, in the first aspect, in the literature and what people want, first one is legalizing your mining operations. If you have a land, then you have to go through and register, right? So that the government can come in and make sure that your operations are being regulated and you adhere to environmental regulations, safety practice protocols, and other forms of which are contained, excuse me, in mining and the legal framework. So legalization is not it's not enough. So that's where we are getting wrong in Ghana. That when you get the license, it means that you're operating formally. No, right? It's not. There are other aspects where I always place emphasis that government should ensure that technical training, the formalization, but there should be technical training. There
mm,
should be logistics, right? There should be logistic support. There should be financial support. Because if you're looking at the definition that poor people engage in it, how can people get finance to register? And we say that the cost of acquiring mining license is expensive, right? How can they engage it? So the formalization is not being should not look at acquiring mining license and operating permit and start operating, right? So it should go beyond that technical training, support, and everything. And one aspect, probably maybe you might ask me that question, where how can we ask about women? How can we help women in that sector? And that's where we need to be have gender sensitive policies that will also enable women to have access to minerals land, register their operations, that they can operate within the legal or framework. And that's something that is very key when we are looking at formalization. And we should know that, people should know that the formalization framework in Ghana is gender neutral. Anybody can acquire the license, yeah, whether women or this one. But the structural issues, hinder, do not favor women, right? So that's why women are always seen at the or occupies the margins. Yeah.
mm. Uh, in your work, I've come across, I've read your work a lot. So if you are looking for someone who has read your work a lot, I think I'll be among the top five or even the top
Okay.
1%. So in
Okay.
your work, you proposed coexistence and partnership licenses between large scale mining operations and artisanal small scale mining operators. How would that work?
Okay. So uh
And what before that, before even what did that work? What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
so when I talk about coexistence and partnership licenses, uh, let me use the case of Pistia, Damai, Takwa, Obuasi. You know that most of the concession, belongs to the large scale mining operators, right? And it the locals do not have access to lands to register, and often they operate on the abandoned concessions of large scale mining operators, right? And for them, they're also classified as illegal miners or informal miners. How can we address uh, such conflict, such conundrum where the locals do not have access to minerals lands and agriculture activities are not attractive, it's less in those areas. So when I mean that there should be alliances that can allow them to work together, it can be on the small scale miners can work on the concessions of large scale mining operators where there's that kind of legal binding allowing them to do so. And for them to happen, then Minerals Commission or the regulators have to come in. So um, if I'm answering the questions that this category of licenses, as I define different forms of license, is to formally recognize arrangements where ASM operators work alongside with large scale mining companies, enabling Minerals Commission to set specific operational and environmental guidelines instead of complete condemnations or prohibition, and that the local or the indigenous miners should not work on the concession of large-scale mining operators.
Yeah. You also thank you for that. But you also proposed in your work multi-tier licensing system. right? Including
Yeah.
underground licenses, alluvial licenses, and medium scale licenses.
Mm,
This seems transformative.
yes.
Can you explain that to our viewers?
Yes. It seems transformative because it recognizes the diversity of ASM operations instead of classifying all miners into one group of legal category, right? So my colleague Ofosu and I proposed separate licenses for underground mining, alluvial mining, surface open pit mining, medium scale mining, and and other licenses for coexistence, because this allow regulators to design more tailored method specific environmental regulations, mine waste practices, health and safety standards, technical support systems, and reclamation strategies for each mining type. In some mining areas, the land does not support underground mining, right? So if they go with alluvial mining or surface mining, they have different impact. So we have to be specific with the mining. So if you are in maybe in my village where they have hard rock, the geology, and the geology and the mineral formation support underground mining, then in those areas they can go for underground mining licenses. It will work that way. So if you are looking at from how it looks like transformative, because it provides deliberate strategic strategies to promote responsible and sustainable mining practice. And in another aspect where it can be transformative is that it enables for women economic what empowerment, where women can access their financial capacity with the kind of mining license that they can what obtain.
So, uh, how can artisanal mining become part of the global green transition, especially with rising demand for critical minerals? How do you see artisanal small scale mining within the global green transition?
Uh, as the show is all about green
Yes,
transition show. this
exactly. It's all about
this
green transition. Yes.
question this
So how do
question
you
is
see?
very relevant.
Very, very
We couldn't have done that without this question, you know.
exactly.
So yes, artisanal mining could become a part of the global green transition because, as you know, the demand for critical minerals used for batteries and renewable technologies increases. Right, there's a race for that, and small scale mining can play that role. If you're looking at what is happening in other Congo, Zimbabwe, and other areas, lithium and everything, there are small scale miners who are involved in extraction of lithium and other critical minerals. So, as I would say, it will only happen if ASM is integrated into the former supply chain through fair regulation, environmental safeguards, and technical upgrading. So if otherwise, if we do not integrate them into the former supply chain, then green transition risk producing exploitation and environmental harm in mineral processing communities across the globe, especially in the global south. I think Francis, I think you are off.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you went off a bit.
Okay. I'm saying that looking ahead, looking into the future,
Mm.
what gives you hope about the future of artisanal small scale mining in Africa?
Oh, to me, what gives me hope is the growing recognition that ASM is not simply a conundrum to eliminate, but legitimate economic sector that can be reformed and supported with with a political will and government giving it total commitment to addressing informality and environmental degradation issues that we are facing. So not other scholars, including myself, other scholars and I, we have believed that the increasing debate around inclusive licensing, women's economic empowerment, environmental sustainability. As you did your PhD in environmental sustainability, how different policymakers can come together as one unit to address ASM challenges. And I believe that if there is a form of partnership or cooperation between ASM operators and large scale mining companies, then we have a way of addressing some challenges that facing in areas where people cannot have access to mining licenses. So, to me, I believe that there should be more of context specific governance approaches that can improve and also balance livelihood and environmental outcomes.
Okay. What will be your final words?
My final words is that ASM is a vibrant economic activity and it addresses poverty issues and provide opportunity for graduate unemployment. So, my support to the government and across the world, there should be total commitment. They should not just develop policies or just on paper to convince people that they are also making a contribution, but rather they should have a total commitment, have checks and balances in a way that can address these political actors being involved in it and expanding environmental degradation issues that we have in Africa as well. So these are some of the things that I'll look at it, and they should look for uh, the mine proposed framework, multi-tier licensing framework that recognize different mining licenses that will address the informality from different perspective in terms of the bureaucratic processes that they have to go through, the license costs, and not pay attention to indigenous knowledge. So hybrid form of formalization is needed in order to address the informal nature of ASM operations in Ghana and also in other African countries. So that's something that I would say.
Dr. Francis Ata-Holmes, thank you so much for coming to the show. We appreciate your time and insights. I learned a lot through this conversation, and I believe our viewers also learned a lot. Uh, this is the Green Transition Show, and this is where we bring the curtains to a close. We thank you for watching. Continue to watch our videos, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all social media pages, and we'll continue to bring you insightful conversations. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, bye.